Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome, viewers. Today is number 5, the 5th viewer request for Chiron, and today it's going to be Chiron in the 2nd house or Taurus. Okay. All right, so Chiron in Taurus and or the 2nd house. The 2nd house describes what gives us a sense of safety and solidity. It is also about our values, what we cultivate and make our own, the nature of our inner and outer resources in life, and how we relate to them, including money, property, and possessions. Developmentally, we begin here to separate from Mother and to derive our sense of substance from our own body and from objects other than her. Our sense of self is still rooted primarily in our instincts and bodily experiences, and if there is a wounding during this transition, we may later project our instincts and body sense onto other people or material objects. Although we have already explored some of the more metaphysical implications of Chiron and Taurus, let us look at its meaning in the individual horoscope. With Chiron and Taurus, or the 2nd house, we may lack a sense of self-worth, being unable to value ourselves, feeling insecure and insubstantial. We never quite feel solid and safe, and may therefore attach great importance to material possessions. I own, therefore I am, could be an underlying feeling, although we come to discover that even acquiring possessions does not help. People with this placement may be deeply possessive and materialistic, clinging to people and possessions in the hopes that they will provide the missing sense of substantiality. And I have to say right here really quick that any of you who don't know what your nodes of the moon are, that is each one of our personal work in this life. It goes into our subconscious when we are birthed, with the energies coming in from the stars, the planets, and that is where the blockages are. And that is also, once you bring that out into your conscious awareness, what your nodes of the moon are, and you work through that south node of the moon of yours, each one of us has one, that's where our true self-worth lies. That's where you will find your true self-worth, especially you, those of you who are listening with Chiron and Taurus or the 2nd house. And leave me an email if you want to know what your nodes are, if you don't know already. And always my email address, excuse me, I always put down in each and every drop-down box below each and every one of my videos, so that you can get a hold of me if you want to ask any questions or make any comments to me personally. Again, that's where you will find my email address. Okay. The body itself may be felt to be unreliable, faulty, or wounded. As with Chiron in the 1st house, when it is in the 2nd house, there may be some actual disability, injury, or physical trauma to cope with. Okay. The body may also be feared and controlled rigorously, since from it emanate powerful and unacceptable sexual and territorial instincts. Many people with Chiron and Taurus have great sexual magnetism. Isadora Duncan and Marilyn Monroe, both already mentioned, are examples of women with Chiron in Taurus. I didn't know that. Marilyn Monroe with Chiron in Taurus. Okay, I'm not going to read this. This is a specific, so I'm going to keep it general. But if you'd like a written copy, send me an email, and I will email one to you. If you have this placement, healing often comes through learning to trust the instinctual wisdom of your body. As far as possible, learn to listen to it. Eat what your body tells you, and sleep when you need to. If you have a legacy of having your instincts ignored or programmed according to others' standards, some gentle undoing may be necessary. Initially, you may feel that physicality, the body, and the material world are your enemies, and you therefore may spend your energy trying to ward off, control, and dominate them. The lesson of this placement may be one of learning to befriend these realms. Massage, pleasurable exercise with awareness, not military regimes of fitness. And taking pleasure in personal grooming can be very healing activities. Conversely, some individuals with this placement have a horror of being tied down by possessions and a reluctance to own things. Okay, here's a woman with Chiron and Scorpio in the second house felt wounded in her childhood by the values of her parents, who attached more importance to their material possessions and wealth than to feelings. Her unconscious anger about this continued to manifest as a sabotaging of her painstaking efforts to build up material security. A man with Chiron in the second house in Sagittarius suffered from a poignant feeling of the transitoriness. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Transitoriness, anyway, of material life. He felt a contempt for it, which actually compensated for his fear of it. Eventually, he embraced an Eastern philosophy of life, which encouraged the renouncing of worldly goods. Instead of facing his fear, this belief system, which has to do with Sagittarius, which this gentleman's Chiron was in Sagittarius in the second house, actually supported and concealed it. Chiron in Taurus, or the second house, often signifies issues concerning wealth and money. Some individuals who must come to terms with great wealth feel unable to accept the responsibility that goes with it. Others may have a genuine desire to share their resources with others. Either way, the control of resources is a theme of this placement. Negatively, such people may obsessively control their instinctual and sexual needs, or be very controlling towards others, which echoes the 8th house, because the 8th house is the house that is directly across from the second house. Positively, they may make excellent managers for others' resources. Fortunes may be won and lost, and those with this placement may have an uncannily good financial sense, perhaps accompanied by difficulty in managing their own finances. One woman with Chiron and Virgo in the second house found it difficult to prevent her own affairs from sliding into debt and chaos, but successfully ran the office of a debt collecting agency. Here again is the theme of Chiron able to do for others what he cannot do for himself. Alternatively, Chiron in the second house, or Taurus, sometimes signifies material poverty, which is felt as wounding and humiliating. Frequently, it creates an exaggerated sense of importance of material possessions. One woman with Chiron and Taurus, who spent several of her formative years as a refugee, said she had to learn to recognize that man is fed not by bread alone. Another frequent manifestation of Chiron and Taurus, or the second house, is the inability to see things symbolically and the tendency to make everything too literal. At times, practical reality may seem to grind to a halt in a welter of problems or decisions which need to be made. The person feels stuck in the mud, unable to turn right or left. Situations and dilemmas become over concretized. Oh boy. I'm not doing well with these words. CONCRETIZED and paralyzing. So to me, that's meaning over concrete is it gets hard and you can't move it. So that's basically what they're saying. And that creates a paralyzing effect. You cannot move. When this occurs, the route to resolution often lies within the body. Instead of trying to solve a problem or work out practical details, it may be more creative to step back, go and dig the garden or do the dishes. Okay, so yeah, stop focusing on it. Go and do something else that takes your mind off of whatever you're agonizing on, whatever you can't, that you're feeling stuck in the mud about. Oh, that makes sense, because that clears out those energies. Because when you're focused on something and you're stuck, then that actually, and you're stressing out, that actually keeps you stuck longer, because it's about your energy, and your energy is not able to move around. That's amazing. Okay. To allow the energy time to disperse. Exactly. To get it flowing again. So do something else if you possibly can. Letting go is not easy for those with Chiron and Taurus, who frequently show the bull-like obstinacy and stubbornness for which Taurus is, anyway, well known. Insecurity within the material realm is often the underlying reason for why people inappropriately or prematurely make things solid and literal. Their ability to think symbolically seems wounded simply because they find this way of thinking, too frightening. People with Chiron in the second house or Taurus might have felt wounded by values that are foreign to their true nature. They are frequently unable to accept the value system which they inherited from their parents or the society in which they live, and must struggle to find out what is really important to them. Oh, this is okay. Let me read that sentence again. That seems very important for all of you. People with Chiron in the second house or Taurus might have felt wounded by values that are foreign to their nature. They are frequently unable to accept the value system which they inherited from their parents or the society in which they live, and must struggle to find out what is really important to them. And you're taking your first step right now by listening to this. They sometimes have to accept financial hardship in order to uphold their own values. Although this is very threatening for some with this Chiron placement, it may also bring a sense of inner strength. The horoscope, okay, let me see here. Okay, I'm going to skip down because this is another, I want to keep it general. So again, if you want the whole thing and you want to read it and have it, to read it over and over and over again, which is a very good thing to do for all of us, just again, send me an email to where I can email it to you. Okay. Let me just check here to see what this is. Okay, let's see here. Like Chiron, Hephaestus, that's the name of a person, I believe. It sounds like it is a mythology, maybe, was wounded. He was rejected by his mother Hera, who found him so ugly that she threw him out of Mount Olympus shortly after he was born, and thus one of his legs was lamed. Unlike Chiron, however, he took revenge on his mother by trapping her in a golden throne which he made for her, and refusing to release her, even though the Olympian gods implored him to hand over the key. He eventually agreed on condition that he would be granted any wish. He asked for Aphrodite as his wife, and she was powerless to refuse in the circumstances. His fate was being rejected. Continued. His fate of being rejected continued, as Aphrodite was notoriously unfaithful and unkind to him. Undaunted, however, he continued to create beautiful things. He represents a creative energy which does not turn in upon itself and destroy its own potential in response to the pain of having been rejected. Although ridiculed by the high and mighty Olympians, being lame, sooty-faced, and awkward, he was a fine craftsman and He was a fine craftsman and metalsmith, and played a key role as catalyst, helping the gods and goddesses to perform their functions. He made spirited retaliation by setting various traps and thus humiliating them in return. He enables others to express their individuality and their selfhood or inner divinity, and this gift is part of his own individuality. He is dedicated to his craft in spite of being wounded. He refuses to be crushed by rejection and humiliation, but instead honors and expresses his own creativity, often with the materials drawn from the earth itself, such as metal. This is what all of your potential is. The figure of Hephaestus represents the potential through self-respect and perseverance to turn one's area of woundedness into a place from which fine creativity can issue. And that's what I call, and I received what I'm going to tell you, from a dear friend of mine. He coined the phrase find the baby. That's what I call find the baby in whatever negative you were given or you have experienced in your life. Find the baby. Find that prize gem inside that experience. How did it assist you in a positive way, in making you stronger, in whatever it is? Although those with Chiron in the second house or in Taurus may suffer through feeling unable to give substance to their own creativity, they are often gifted midwives to the creative endeavors of others. They may initially admire and envy others' creative gifts, but undervalue their own. If they can encompass this pain without inflicting it upon their own sense of self-worth, those with this placement can develop a reverence for the creative process itself. Once their own creativity is transpersonalized in this way, it often begins to flow. With the territoriality of Chiron in Taurus or the second house, creativity may need to be experienced as something we participate in, a process which we serve, rather than something we own. One woman with this placement said that she found the process of creating very laborious and would dream of figures like Hephaestus in his forge. Another woman with Chiron conjunct Mercury in Libra in the second house remembers being asked by a friend in class to write a story, as he had not done his homework. She quickly dashed off a story for him, which to her horror got higher marks than the one she had written for herself. Wow. Later in life, she longed to write, but felt blocked. However, in her work as an editor, her creativity, spontaneity, and generosity flowed easily, and she was able to understand and support the writers with whom she worked. She said, with true Chiron, Mercury, wit, what I need is someone like me in my life. That was her quote. Okay, well, that is all I have for Chiron in the second house and or in Taurus. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments, or if you want me to read your other half, if I haven't already read it in past Chiron, this is number 5. So I have 4 others that you can look back on to see if any, because you have 2 parts. So if the other part I've already done, if not, send me a comment. Leave me an email if you would like me to do that. Okay, until next time.